welcome everyone. Welcome to the Deal Finder Corner. So this is your weekly property talk show brought to you by Property Filter, hosted by myself, Guillaume Black, your favorite Frenchman. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Property Filter, and as you know, the UK's highest rated platform to find deals. And we continue on our mission to empower our property investor and deal sourcer members to find yet again another 1,000 deals this year, thanks to the Property Filter blueprint. So the purpose with this Deal Finder Corner is to give you more and the best of the available resources by inviting expert guests who will share with you the latest and most current strategies, tactics, and secrets about what actually works right now in terms of finding, making deals, and the reality of systemizing and running a high-performance business in property. So it really is my pleasure to introduce to you my very good friend, Alex Baker, from the Supported Living platform. So Alex is one of the two parts, Alex, together with Max Rayner, are multiple award-winning investors. The awards recognize their work they've been doing in their supported living and care projects and companies over the last 5 years. They feature regularly on our guest podcasts and speaking at events all over the country on the matter. They spent the past five years really mastering, building up portfolios, building up their portfolio and helping other people do the same. And alongside really growing their supported living investment business, they also coach, on a boutique type basis, other property investors to help navigate the sticky industry of supported living and helping people, basically mimic the secrets here. So it's an industry which is seen as a lot, complicated. There's a lot of friction, but actually, when if it's, the fact that it's complicated makes it really rewarding because there's a big barrier to entry for the people who are not ready to do the work. And then once you have the relationship with the providers, you unlock a lot of value here. So I'm very, very happy to have Alex today on the Deal Finder Corner. So what can you expect from today's episode? So Alex will look after us and tell us exactly what is supported living, how it differs from social housing, the different, the marketplace for supported living, or you can dodge the renters reform bill, which everyone I think is very interested in, and the different supported living strategies and business model you can take away with you. So, and then we'll have a bit of a Q&A also to answer your questions. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing Alex and listening to his talk today. So please give a massive Property Filter virtual welcome to Mr. Alex Baker. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that intro. I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head there with everything that we're going to be looking at. It's going to be a bit of an introduction to supported living, a bit about what's possible, how it differs from the typical residential market. You really do kind of play by a different set of rules when you're working with FRI leases and care providers. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys about that today and hopefully open your eyes to what's possible and show you a little bit about what myself and my business partner Max have been up to over the past 5 years. I am flying solo today. We've got a couple of big projects coming up. So Max is on the golf course out raising investment. But I can assure you that you've definitely got the better half. So don't fear. So I'll go ahead and share my screen with you now and we'll get cracking. Okay, hopefully you can all see that nice and clear.
Yeah, all good.
Good stuff. Thanks again for having me. It's going to be an insight into an industry that is it's a real buzzword at the moment, supported living. A lot of people are talking about it on social media, and a lot of people are probably explaining it in the wrong way on social media, also getting it mixed up with social housing. So we're going to be debunking a few myths today, giving you loads and loads of value. The property industry is going through a big shift at the moment, which is causing a lot of people to consider packing it all in. There might be some of you on this webinar who are thinking about it. And my goal for today is hopefully to show you that you don't need to quit property altogether. There are sectors of the property industry that are still thriving and are still profitable, despite everything else that is going on. I am aware that we don't have loads of time today, so I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible while also making sure that you guys get value. But I also understand that a lot of the value comes from the Q&A. So we'll try and get to that as soon as possible. And then, I'm sure we'll have loads of questions at the end. So just before we get cracking, please do go ahead and follow us on Instagram if you don't already. It really helps us. We're always posting videos and facts and knowledge and industry updates on there as well. So that is at the Supported Living platform. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn under Alex Baker and Max Rayner. So go ahead and give us a follow because we would love to stay in touch. So yeah, I guess a good place to start is who the hell are we? Of course, yeah, Alex and Max. First and foremost, we are investors and developers. We have been in the property industry since 2017, and we have been doing supported living since 2020. Over the 5 years that we've been in the industry, we've won a few awards, which we're very, very proud of. All of those are for supported living and care projects. And more recently, we are educators and mentors, teaching people like yourselves how to take your first steps in supported living and succeed in what really is quite a tricky niche of property investment if you don't have any guidance and you don't know what you're doing. On the personal side, as you can see, Max is a golf addict. That's where he is today. I'm an Arsenal fan for my sins, and we are actually best mates. We've known each other since primary school. So our professional relationship starts in 2017, but our personal relationship starts when we were about 5 years old. So yeah, we've known each other a very, very long time. I hate this bit. I don't like doing this bit. Myself and Max, we don't talk about the money side of things very often. You'll see on our social media, whether that's supported living platform or our investment business, Stuart Clinton Property. We don't really talk about GDV. We don't talk about cash flow. We are driven by impact, not profit. However, you guys are taking time out of your day today to come and listen to us. So I think the absolute least we can do is qualify ourselves for that. But yeah, we'll move on from this slide nice and quickly. So I just wanted to start by showing you a little bit about what we've done over the past 5 years. We started off working in mental health care. That is where we first started. That resonates really deeply with ourselves. As I just mentioned, our development company is called Stuart Clinton Property, and I'm Alex, and my business partner is Max. The company is actually named after our dads. We were unfortunate to lose our dads quite early in life, so we started this company as a real kind of we wanted to honor them and as a bit of a legacy in their names, and we're very open about talking about the mental health struggles that we faced and do still face to this day, and for us mental health really was a big driver in what we wanted to have an impact in. Something that I think sets us apart from a lot of other supported living investors and developers really is the care and attention that we put into our spaces. For a very long time, unfortunately, care and supported living properties have been cold, dark, damp, clinical. Everything's been wiped clean. And it's just not an environment that is conducive to recovery for people that are vulnerable and are facing all kinds of different needs. So our kind of motto is that we would never create a home that we personally wouldn't live in ourselves. Our goal really, we started as high-end HMO investors and developers. And what we've done is we've taken that blueprint and brought it into supported living because we want to be right at the tip top, spearheading, pushing the industry forward, trying to improve it and giving our residents the nicest home that they possibly can. This property that you can see here, this got us shortlisted last year for best property development over £1 million at the Property Investors Awards. Unfortunately, we didn't get the win this time, but we're very, very proud of this project. And hopefully you can see the care and attention that goes into our interiors. Ideally, the way that we would want it is if somebody walks into one of our care homes or supported living properties, the only reason that they should know that it is care or supported living is that there's staff there. I would hope that if anyone walked into there, and hopefully you guys will agree, that you would look at a property like that and go, that's a high-end HMO, that's a high-end studio apartment. But that is enough about us. Hope we've got that bit out of the way. Let's dig into the fun stuff and the nitty-gritty and talk about the industry in general. So what actually is supported living? So the term supported living has been used in recent years as a bit of a blanket term for all types of care and supported living. It is often used to cover more specific types of care. such as residential care, domiciliary care, and even supported living, which confusingly enough is its own specific type too. But we can dive into that a little bit later. But in general, when it's used as a blanket term, supported living means to provide accommodation, care, and support for people who need extra assistance in their lives. Now, I believe that the more important question than what is supported living is why is it important? Now, this question has this answer has two sides. So you've got a benefit to the residents, but you've also got a benefit to the taxpayer as well. We'll start with the residents because, of course, that is the most important. Number one reason is that it creates better health outcomes. Every single bit of research that has been done points in the direction that supported living creates better health outcomes every single time. It gives people more independent living and it gives them a much more personalized care. And this is a really, really key point. There are a massive spectrum of needs, and within those needs, there is a massive spectrum too. Care and support is not a one size fits all. And it is really important that we don't treat people like that. And in a supported living environment, each individual person has their own care package that is suited to what they need, their personalities, their requirements. Now, on the taxpayer side, the main benefit is that these people are spending less time in expensive hospital beds. It costs an absolute fortune to keep people in hospital beds. As you guys well know, you don't need me to tell you how under pressure the NHS is and how underfunded it is in general. Keeping people or getting people into supported living means that they are recovering quicker and are less reliant on care workers. So the goal in supported living is always to get people to the point where they are as independent as they can possibly be, as quickly as possible. Some people will always need care. Of course, if you've got learning disabilities or autism, the likelihood is that you will always need some sort of care. But for things like mental health, ideally, we want to be getting people back into society, back working, and back standing on their own 2 feet. So that is exactly why it's important, both to the resident and to all of us as taxpayers. So what is the actual strategy from a property perspective? So in short, we, as the investors, developers, look to develop or convert property to be used for specialist supported housing for vulnerable people. What we do is we then lease them out to a provider on an FRI lease, and we'll dig into FRI leases a little bit later. And these can range anywhere from 3, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, sometimes even 25 and 30 years. And I'm sure all of you guys that are in this webinar today would love to be passing your properties over on a 20-year lease and just say, oh, not my problem anymore. So it's really important for us to stress, we don't provide the support. We're property experts, we're not care experts. We do the property side and then we lease to a provider who is a care and support expert. So FRI lease, some of you might already know, FRI stands for fully repairing and insuring, which basically means that your provider who takes on the lease will cover all of the cost of maintenance within the span of that whole lease, which particularly when you've got vulnerable tenants that maybe are more likely to cause damage to the property, not always, but sometimes, that's really, really important. Now, a common misconception that we come across all the time is that people just assume that supported living in care is reserved for these huge developers that are doing these big care villages and that it's not accessible for you or I. This could not be more wrong, honestly. As you can see here, supported living in care can come in so many different shapes, sizes, and forms, from bungalows to HMOs, blocks of flats, all the way up to those big care villages. If that is your appetite, there might be some people here who are looking at that thinking, oh yeah, I'd love a care village. But the fact of the matter is, it can be anything from a 1-bed bungalow. If you have the skills to purchase, refurb, and include some specific supported living features, then you can do your own first supported living project. There's absolutely no reason why you can't do that. Stamp duty has obviously just gone up on residential property though. However, commercial property hasn't. So blocks of flats are in massive demand for supported living at the moment. So there is a real opportunity to get in there and do commercial to resi conversions, hopefully under PD, and get a long lease on that and skirt your way around that increased stamp duty that has probably hit a lot of us. We're in conveyancing for a big bungalow over in Gloucestershire at the moment, and our stamp duty has just gone up by like 9 grand overnight. So yeah, that's really fun. We're absolutely loving that. So talking about stamp duty, that brings us on quite nicely to the Renters Reform Bill, which is another change that is imminent in the property industry. Of course, it's not law yet, but we all know it's coming and we're all dreading it, I'm sure. Now, before I do get into this, I do just want to make it clear that I do support the Renters Reform Bill. I don't come from a wealthy family. My background is one of working class immigrants, and many of my family and friends do rent, and many of my family and friends have had to deal with some really awful landlords. So in general, I do think that there needs to be more control over the rental market. However, with my property hat on and with my landlord's hat on, I know that these changes are going to be an absolute pain in the arse. And if you combine that with everything else that the government is putting in place to make being a landlord as unattractive as possible, I think we are definitely going to see people selling off and getting out of this industry in their droves. Now, in my opinion, successful business people are those who are able to pivot and adjust to a changing market. We all know that change creates opportunity. However, it's important to be able to see that opportunity when it's in front of you. When this renters reform bill does become law, it's going to be really difficult to get tenants out of our properties. And it's also likely that some sort of rent control is probably going to be introduced too, which can cause people problems. Now, in supported living, you're not renting to a person, you're renting to a business on a commercial lease. So if they break the terms of that lease, it is very, very easy to remove them from your property. This almost never happens, by the way. This is real black swan stuff because, as I said, they are a business. It's in their best interest to not break the terms of the lease and to keep growing their business and to pay you rent every single month. Rent increases in a supported living lease, they do vary. However, it's always agreed up front. And usually it's linked to inflation, which means that there's no arguments or negotiation on rent increases. The RPI or the CPI guides the rent, which also benefits you because it means that your rent is always staying in line with inflation. So that's been particularly beneficial for us over the past few years as we've been in quite a high inflation market, which has been great. But it means that you're always going to be keeping up and you don't have to deal with well, put it this way, who would you rather be renting your property to? Would you rather be renting it to a business who probably has a person or multiple people in the finance department who are making sure that rent gets paid in full and on time every single month? Or would you rather be renting to Bob the Builder, who is partial to going out on a 5-day bender, spending his whole month's wages, and ending up not being able to pay his rent at the end of the month? It's a pretty easy decision, in my opinion, and that's what we have in supported living. So there are plenty of benefits to what we do. One of the big ones, like I mentioned earlier, we are impact led. We're not profit led, but at the end of the day, for us to keep growing as a business, we have to be profitable because the more our business grows, the more vulnerable people we can help. And at the end of the day, we've all got families to feed. We've all got, rent to pay or mortgages to pay. So we do have to be profitable and we do have to make money. So it's impossible to completely kind of neglect that part. So I think it's important to tell you the benefits that you have. So an exercise that I like to do with people, particularly those who are in HMOs, is to take your cash flow spreadsheet and have a look. And what I want you to do is I want you to remove all of your bills. I want you to remove all of your maintenance costs because both of those are covered by the care provider. I want you to remove your lettings agent's fees because we don't need a lettings agent. It's a direct lease. And I want you to remove all of your voids because no matter how many people are in your supported living property, your lease gets paid in full. You don't have to absorb any of the voids. That is completely down to the care provider. So if you guys want to go away and do that after this, and see what your bottom line looks like after this, I'm sure that it is going to be looking really, really healthy, and a lot better than what it is right now, for a standard HMO, be that student, or working professional. So not only is it great for improving your cash flow, it's also great for increasing equity, because when you have the correct lease in place, and I have to stress the correct lease in place, it's really important to stress that, you can get a commercial valuation on your properties. There are a few different things that go into this, and I won't dig too deep into it now, but essentially you want to have a long lease, you need to have a reputable care provider, and you need to have a few things kind of ticked off to make sure that you can get that commercial valuation. But as you can see here from, excuse me, sorry guys. As you can see here from the graph on the screen, the first 3 properties is a little section of our HMO portfolio, and the 4 to the right are a bit of our care and supported living portfolio. So you can see there that through commercial valuations, we've been able to increase our equity in the property and take more money out, which has helped us grow our business so much. It has made an absolute massive difference. Just to give you an idea, so we will go in from 2017 to 2020, we were going for 3 years. Within the first year of doing supported living and care, we doubled the value of our portfolio, just like that. It really was a light bulb moment for us of like, wow, this is what's possible in this industry. And yeah, we've never looked back since. So moving on, as Guillaume alluded to, and he's fallen foul of this one actually. When we've had conversations about supported living, he accidentally says social housing, and it's really, really important to realise that the two are not the same. They have very distinctive differences, that you can see on your screen here. So, as you guys know, social housing is affordable housing. Right, it provides a stable environment for people and puts a roof over people's head, and most of the time for that you're going to get paid LHA rate, maybe LHA rate plus 5 or 10%. Now, what we do in supported living is we're creating properties for people with support needs, and that really is the key difference. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it can cross over and there can be slight grey areas, but if we had to draw a line, supported living is for people with support needs. We provide them with assistance, and we get market rent for our properties. Now, the reason that we get market rent for our properties is because we're not just going, here's a property, I'll chuck it out to social housing, which is easy to do. Anyone can do that. What we're doing is we're creating bespoke properties that are going to be suited towards the particular type of care that the provider we're working with requires. Whether that is buying a property specifically for them, or adapting one that you already have to make it more suited to people with support needs and vulnerable people. So we are getting market rent, quite often higher than market rent. And then once you take off all of those overheads that you would typically have to pay in a HMO setting at least, you see that your cash flow really, really increases. So it's a fantastic business model. We absolutely love it. Now, another distinction to make is that care is not just for the elderly. You guys obviously know this, but you wouldn't believe the amount of people that I start telling them what I do. Oh yeah, I'm a care and support developer, and they're like, oh, brilliant. Yeah, my nan, she lives in a care home. She's got dementia, and it's funny how people's minds just immediately go to that. But actually, elderly care is something completely different. It has to be done at quite a large scale, and for us, it doesn't really suit what we do. So what you can see on your screen here, these are the type of people and of support needs that we really look to cater for. So I've probably just spent the last 15 minutes talking about all of the benefits of supported living, singing its praises. It's amazing. It makes you more money. You help vulnerable people. And you guys are probably sat there thinking, well, that's great. But if that's the case, and if it is so fantastic, why isn't everyone doing it? And there is a short and simple answer to this, which is It's bloody hard. um, it's not a straightforward industry. The barriers to entry are very high. There's a lot of red tape. There are hoops to jump through. You're dealing with vulnerable people at the end of the day. This is what we have to remember. You have to find the right providers. You have to do your due diligence on these providers. You have to have an understanding of commercial leases. There are limited finance options available to you. There are tight regulations, and sometimes your exits can be a little bit more complicated as well. However, it's all worth it. I promise you, all of the hard work is definitely worth it because you do change people's lives. And hopefully you can hear that the passion that I talk about supported living, because I absolutely love it. And when we go back to our properties and we see the residents in our home and how much they're loving it and the benefit that they get out of having a really nice, modern, warm home to receive their support in, it makes all of the headaches and the sleepless nights and it makes it all worth it. So moving on. Now that my PSA is over of how difficult it can be, I want to go back to talking about how fantastic supported living is because that's much more fun. So some of the benefits that you get through being a supported living investor aren't necessarily as tangible as commercial valuation, more equity, more cash flow, etc., etc. Some of them are a bit more kind of nuanced and less tangible. So I'm sure all of you here have had to go and raise investment for your property developments. And we have found that since we have been social impact led, that part of the business has been a lot easier. I mean, we usually do this little, when Max is here, we do a little role play, and I won't do it because I'll look silly doing it on my own. But essentially, compare two people that are coming to you. You're a high net worth individual, and you've got two people coming to you asking for investment on a property deal. Person number one, got a great deal. It's going to be lovely. It's in a good area, and I'll give you 10%. Person number two, great property, lovely area. But actually, what my property is going to do is it's going to provide a home and support for 10 vulnerable people, vulnerable adults who are fighting various mental health battles, who would otherwise be in hospital or unregistered facilities or sometimes out on the street, and it's going to give them a second chance at life. Put yourself in the shoes of that high net worth individual, and I think you can probably all say with a lot of confidence, well, I'll go for that one. If they're both offering you 10%, whatever percentage it is, you're going to want to do good with your money. And the fact of the matter is, most high net worths do want to do good with their money. People are inherently good. Humans are inherently good. We want to help people. And that is one of the less tangible benefits that we have found from supported living. Now, another one that we have found is that all of a sudden, when you're doing social impact investment, you're no longer the villain. You guys probably know it. Of course you do. You read the papers. Everyone hates landlords. Everyone hates property developers. They think that we're greedy. They think that we're destroying the property market. So I've got a really good story. I realize we're short of time, so I won't go too far into it. But we had a really cool situation where we were buying a care home and we were up against a developer that was way bigger than us and had the ability to offer more than us. And they did offer more than us, £80,000 more than us. But we really wanted the property and we had visited the home and it was owned by a couple that had owned it for like 20 years. They'd literally built it from the ground up and we got along with them really well. And we got to the point where it was a case of a bit of a Hail Mary. So we asked the agent, look, can we have a meeting with the vendors and sit down and just kind of, lay it all down on the line for them? So we sat down, we told them our story, we told them our background, and we basically said, look, cards on the table, we can't offer you as much as this other developer. However, we would like for you to sell us this property because what we're going to do is we're going to continue the legacy that you guys have built over the past 20 years supporting vulnerable people in this area and carry that on for the next 20 years. And they walked away, and a couple of days later, we got the call saying that they were happy to take an £80,000 haircut to see their legacy continued and to see vulnerable people within that area continue to be looked after rather than this bigger developer who was going to knock the whole thing down and build a block of flats. And I think that speaks absolute volumes of the power of being a social impact-led investor. It's also helped us with direct-to-vendor strategy. You start mentioning that you're helping people with autism, learning disabilities, any kind of vulnerable person, and people give you the time of day. People want to help you out. People want to hear your story. They want to hear about what you're doing. So since we've been doing supported living, our direct-to-vendor strategy has been a lot more successful, and we've had to send a hell of a lot less letters out, which has been really, really cool. And yeah, really helped us grow in a big way. So in summary, what are our goals? For us, for me and Max, our goals are to continue being the good guys, number one. We really want to spearhead change in this industry. Unfortunately, for a long time, supported living, the industry in general, has been taken advantage of. It has been provided with subpar properties, quite often subpar care, and people rinsing ridiculous profits out of the middle. And we want to change this. We want to put more high quality property on the market so that care providers are no longer having to take that old property that the landlord's had for 15 years, has never been refurbed. It's not making him as much money as he wants to. So he says, oh, I'll just chuck it to, these care guys. They don't care. That's not the way that this industry should be done. Vulnerable people deserve a home that is comfortable, warm, and that they feel safe in just as much as we do, more than we do. They need it more than us. So our two main goals moving forward are to help house as many vulnerable people as humanly possible, and also to raise the standard of supported living in the UK. And part of that is the reason why we started the supported living platform. Myself and Max, we are only two people. We're going to try and help as many vulnerable people as we possibly can. But the fact of the matter is, we are only two people. And regardless of how much outsourcing we do, no matter how many VAs we get from the Philippines, no matter how many processes and systems we put in place, there is only going to be a finite amount of people that we can reach. So what we decided to do is to reach vulnerable people through a network of investors and developers. So we set up the supported living platform to coach and educate people that already have property experience on how to access this industry, how to be successful in this industry, and most importantly, how to do it properly. We don't want to work with people who are there just to make money. We do have a reasonably strict process as to who we accept. If we get a vibe that somebody's only in it to try and make a load of money and cut corners, we don't want to work with you. And to be honest, as a bit of a warning, if that is what you're looking to do, you won't make it very long in supported living. If you think that property circles are small, care circles are even smaller. And once you get a reputation for doing a bad job, nobody's going to want to work with you again. So we believe that money comes as a byproduct of doing a good job. If you keep doing a good job, build yourself a good reputation, more care providers are going to want to work with you. They're going to be willing to pay more money for your properties because they know that you're doing a top job. And that is how you become successful in this industry. So our goal at the supported living platform is to provide you guys with a head start. Myself and Max had to work tirelessly and spend absolutely ages gaining the kind of information that you find in our courses, which means that we want to give you guys a head start on where we started. We made loads of mistakes. We tripped up so many times, and we really had to figure it out the hard way. So what we want to do is give you guys the opportunity to start from a better position than we did and hit the ground running without having to trip up and fall over all of those hurdles and learn along the way. And that's exactly why we are here. So in summary, supported living is for you. If you really want to use your skills and knowledge to make a material difference to vulnerable people's lives, if you want to generate reliable monthly cash flow and create major capital uplift from property, and if you want to make yourself and your property business investable so that you can keep developing, and if you want to reignite your passion that you once had for property. Part of the reason why myself and Max moved into supported living was that we had kind of fallen out of love with property, which is kind of strange to say. We had only been in it for 3 years. We were still in our mid-20s, but we got tired of just trying to work for more money. Like you get good at it, you enjoy it for a certain amount of time, but then you've got all the headaches. You've got boilers breaking. You've got tenants not paying. You've just got it felt essentially. I think the best way to put it is that we resented our tenants. And that took a lot of soul searching to be able to admit that. But the fact of the matter was that we did. We resented our tenants and we weren't working for their benefit. We weren't putting them first. And coming into an industry that is social impact led changed our mindset completely. And no longer were we thinking, how much money can we make? How many properties can we buy, etc., etc. We were looking at one goal: how many people can we help? And actually, that mindset switch meant that we grew our business a million times faster than we were back then when we were only focusing on the money. So yeah, supported living is a brilliant, brilliant industry for so many reasons. I really hope that you guys can hear my passion for the industry and how much I love it. And yeah, thank you very, very much for listening to me today. Just to finish off, if you guys want a little bit more information about what we do and a bit of a 7-step guide, go ahead and scan the QR code that is on the screen now, and that will take you to a page where you can get a little PDF download for a little bit more information. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and listen to this. I hope you got lots of value, and I really hope that I've opened your eyes to the possibilities in care and supported living. So thank you very much.
Alex, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for leaving some time for the question. I know I told you people will have lots of questions. Make sure you don't talk too long, because there's going to be loads of questions around that. So thanks a lot for that. So, at the start you said about social supported living. You see, I almost did it again. Supported
Yeah.
living gives a better health outcome compared to more institution NHS stuff. Or could you explain a little bit the process people go through to find these, and the care provider type thing? How do you find the care provider and that part?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is really the first hurdle that people hit, is where do I find these care providers? And when you know how, it's easy. But when you don't, it's not easy at all, because care providers are not like any other business. They don't need to be visible. They don't need to market. They have one client. Well, they have one client who really is the local authority. They need to prove themselves to the local authority. They don't need to run adverts. They don't need to do any of that stuff. So I can probably guarantee that most of you have never heard of probably the top 5 biggest care providers in the country, because why would have you, unless you're in that industry? So in order to find these people, you need to really know where to look. And you've got to be having a search through Google. You can look through something called the CQC, the Care Quality Commission. So the Care Quality Commission are essentially the regulatory body for all things care. So that's not only care homes and supported living, that is also ambulance services, dentists, hospitals, everything like that. But the majority of supported living providers will be registered through the CQC.
Yeah.
And it's really important that you vet these people. Not all care providers are made equal, far from it. It is really important that you understand how to vet a care provider and understand the difference between a good one and a bad one.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. And so someone's asking, could you put your contact details up again, if you don't mind?
Yes, absolutely. Give me 2
And
seconds.
Amide, if you don't mind putting the question in the chat, we'll go through it over there. So I'm guessing you you must get when you share your details about this type of thing, you must get quite a few people reaching out to you. How do you get the bandwidth to actually help everyone, like that? I know you've got the education and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. So look, it's there are many different ways that we can help people. We have a few different courses. We have an online course. We have a mastermind course. We offer one-to-one consultancy. We can consult on people's projects. We've had people come to us with projects saying, look, I'm building a block of flats. I would like for you to bring the care side. So there are many different ways that we can look to support people. If you are getting in touch and you have a particular property in mind, do be aware that we probably won't be able to look in detail at every single property straight away. But anyone who requests a call with us, we are always happy to jump on a Zoom for a good 15 minutes, find out about people's background, find out about what they're trying to get out of supported living, and then cater a service to them that is going to best suit their experience and their requirements.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. And if someone, so we talked about you've got a product which is like an online course for people to go a little bit deeper than we've been today. And then we talked about doing a bit of a deal for the Prop Filter guys. I've got some updates on that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Throwing you in front of the bus.
You're segueing me, yeah. Yeah. So we have a course now. What we have found in supported living is that a lot of people like the idea of it, but I think people's biggest barrier is their own self-belief, right? And I think a lot of people look at it and they see the hurdles that I'm very open. I'm not gonna lie to people and say it's easy. It's not easy. I personally wouldn't recommend going into it without somebody there to support you, be that myself and Max or somebody else. It is a tough industry and you do need to really know the ins and outs of it to be successful from day one. So what we've done is we've created a course that is called Supported Living 101. Now, what this does is this gives everyone a baseline understanding of what supported living is. It gives people strategy to go out and find care providers, which is the first big hurdle that people hit. It also gives you pointers on positioning yourself in the best way so that care providers want to work with you, because it's a two-way street, right? You need to also vet the providers that you are looking to work with, but you need to make yourself as attractive as possible as well, because there are a lot more property investors and developers than there are care providers. We talk about award-winning collaborations. Creating supported living property isn't a one-man job, right? There are a lot more people involved. It's a web of people. It's you, it's the care provider, it's often a housing association, it's the local authority and the care commissioner. It really is a collaboration between a group of people to bring this project to delivery. So we go deeply into that and explain exactly how that works. We teach people about FRI leases and go a little bit more in depth about how to use the angle of social investment or social impact, I beg your pardon, to raise investment. Now, what we've found is a lot of people want to just dip their toe in, which is absolutely fine. I don't like the idea of pushing people into an expensive course when they're not 100% set that supported living is right for them. So what we've done in collaboration with Property Filter is we've created a supported living 101 to give people the opportunity to get a baseline knowledge, give you the information that you need to take the first few steps to realize whether this is for you and whether this isn't for you. And if you feel that you're capable to do this before then maybe taking other steps. So this course is available for £399, which is affordable for anyone that's in the property industry. But we are going to do a very special deal, actually. We've been working quite closely with Property Filter to put this together. And we are very grateful for Property Filter. They've always been big supporters of ours and what we're doing. And we truly believe that what they offer is by far and away the best deal finding platform out there, hands down. So what we have done is for anyone that is a Property Filter member, you are going to be able to access this course for a very discounted price of £1. So Guillaume, do you want to talk a little bit more about how that's going to be possible? We have a discount code, don't we?
Okay, so great. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I know we've discussed quite a bit, so it's great that it's kind of live now. So are you able to share this so the guys can access the resources for this?
Absolutely. I'll put the links in
Yeah,
the
and then I'll let people take advantage of that, and then we can go back to the questions. Okay, so I'm
no
going to
problem
read the
at all.
questions. So Ardip was asking about the details, the contact details, which is great. Gabrielle is asking about how easy it is to find mortgage lenders who will lend for properties being used on supported living, and what kind of mortgage rates do you currently get in the current market? Sorry, Alex, I'm
So
making you. It's a bit of a multitasking here. Okay, so to be clear, so this is your sorry, I'm jumping around. So this is your supported living one-on-one course that helps people assess if this is for them or not for them, with all aspects from finding the provider to understanding the different leases to making
yeah.
the deals, and to understanding basically the outcome of this is it something I want to do or not. And it's a just shy of £400 product, and we're very, very grateful that you are doing this for £1 for our Property Filter members. So thank you very much for that.
No,
So
no problem at all. Yeah, I'm really excited to collaborate with you guys.
yeah.
As I said,
So what?
we love your platform. But yeah, going back to the question regarding lending,
Yeah.
it is more difficult to get lending. It is. There are far less banks who lend on these types of projects. However, when you know the right brokers to work with, you can have access to all of them, and they will help to get those deals done. In terms of interest rates at the moment, we're in the it's difficult to say because not all supported living deals are the same, but you're getting typical kind of commercial rates. Um,
Okay.
it will very much depend on the type of development, the type of project, the care provider that you have in there, and a number of other things. So I don't want to go and quote something, but the long and short of it is when you find the right broker who works within that commercial space and that supported living space, it opens all of the doors for you to the right banks.
Are there sort of minimum size projects for this? Like when you say commercial lendings and things, so does it need to be like a single buy to let you could put onto something like that, or does it have to be HMOs, blocks of flats and things?
No, no, it can be any size
Yeah.
project. We are going we're in conveyancing at the moment for a 3-bedroom bungalow, which will house a couple of adults with autism. And we have already got the terms for a commercial valuation and a commercial mortgage on the back end of that.
Yeah, because you already got the lease approved in principle, so they know what's going to be the
Exactly.
income.
It's
Excellent.
all based on the lease. It's all
You
based
get
on the lease and the strength of the covenant.
actually you get a lot of certainty quite early on your
Yes.
exit, so that's interesting.
Exactly
So
that. And that's another one of the benefits of supported living is before you've even bought the property, if you've got your lease agreed with your care provider, you can take that to a commercial surveyor, valuer. We use Christie and Co's, for example, and say, right, this is the lease that we're going to be using. This is the property that we're looking to buy. What will this get valued at in 6 months' time once the works are done? And you already know what your GDV is. You don't have to have that squeaky bum time of having the valuer come round, trying
yeah,
to be in a good mood with chocolates and coffee, and you don't have any
yeah.
of that because it's all based on how much the rent is, how long the lease is for, and obviously a yield multiplier.
Yeah, so on the yield, how does that work for these? Is it based on area? Is it based on care? Is it based on the strength of the covenant of the lease?
All based on the strength of the covenant. So it has
Okay.
very little to do with area in supported living. It's all based on how strong the care provider is, how
Hmm.
many properties they service, their reputation. Those are really the key things. And then it's also to do with the terms in the lease. So it depends on when your break clause is, exactly how much maintenance sits on who, because you
Hmm.
can have FRI, but you can also have IRR, which is
Yeah,
internal
yeah.
refurb and repair. So it's based on a few different things, but essentially it's the strength of the covenant. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Hamid is asking a really good question. So I am building a project and I am wondering, do I complete the build or do I need to speak with a care provider now to consider, you know, what they need, and when I'm making the plans for the build, and at which stage basically do you involve the provider? And Amity, thank you for putting your question here.
So usually we would recommend speaking the way that we teach it and the way that we think it is done best. You can build before. We think that the way that it works for all parties best is to find a care provider before you've even bought a property. So what we teach is say, right, go out, find a care provider who wants to work with you and get a shopping list essentially. Where do you need properties? Which town or city? Which area of that town or city? What type of property? Does it need to be DDA compliant, which is wheelchair accessible? How many units do you need? And then you would then go out and supply that for them. You can do, you can get supported living and care providers involved in the middle, and you can also do it on the end. But it makes it a little bit more tricky because sometimes you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. So if I were you, I would be going and speaking to care providers as soon as possible. If you've still got the opportunity to add non-slip flooring, maybe low surface temperature radiators, and some finishes that will be required for supported living, I would absolutely go and speak to them now to find that out as soon as possible.
So that links really well to I'm jumping to Leanne's question, and I'll come back
Mhm.
to the other one. So Leanne was asking, could we discuss some of the typical requirements for SL? Because I'm sorry, I've got social housing in my head. I can't get it.
Don't you
I
dare. Don't you dare.
supported living. I appreciate this will differ from provider to provider depending on the area of care, but is there any across the board requirement?
Yes, as you said, it massively varies, and it very
Mhm.
much depends on who is in your property. But at the absolute lowest level, for example, for the sort of stuff that we were doing when we first started, which was HMO style residential care for people with mental health challenges, you're going to be looking at non-slip flooring in the bathrooms and probably in the laundry room. You're going to be looking at low surface temperature radiators so that people can't accidentally scald themselves on the radiator. You are going to need TMVs on anything that releases water to make sure that the
What's that? Sorry, TMVs?
TMV, it's a temperature regulator
Okay.
for showers and sinks and taps and things like that. You are going to need special types of showers. So you have what are called like care-friendly showers. So these are going to show very clearly what are hot and cold by showing red and blue for people that maybe can get confused. And you're going to want all of your taps and showers to have really easy knobs to use so that people with dexterity issues can still use them. Sometimes when you've got the tricky ones that maybe twist and they're a bit small, that can cause problems for certain people with certain needs. So that's kind of like a baseline. You're also going to have to think about anti-ligature. It's a horrible thing to think about, but you do, particularly in the mental health space, have some people that are on suicide watch.
Yeah.
And it is our job as developers to try and mitigate that risk as much as humanly possible.
So just on that, for example, is it in the furniture or
So ligature is to do
yeah,
with
yeah,
viewing.
I
So
understand, but
that's going to be on lights. So where you see these nice HMOs that have these lights hanging down from the ceiling down to there that have
okay.
a big cord on them, you won't be able to use that. Blinds that have a pull cord, you would have to replace that with a stick that you would twist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's things like that. At the end of the day, you can't. The only way you can completely stop any risk is by putting someone in like a padded room, which obviously we're not going to do. But
Yeah.
it's about what's doing. It's about doing what is reasonable.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. What's reasonable and what is expected. And your care provider, once you've got a relationship with a care provider, they'll guide you on all of this. They know their spec. They know what their residents need. So don't feel like you need to preempt or second guess this. Remember, we're the property experts. They're the care experts. We will guide them on some things and they will guide us on some things. It really is a collaboration.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks so much, Alex. And yeah, these were really great inputs. And Amidi, go and speak to your find some care provider as soon as possible. Yeah, as early as you can. John was asking, as a property finder deal sourcer, how can I use my existing skills for this and help move into this space? And two, help you or other developers, or basically help developers with this working in this space. So is how can deal sources basically become, let's say, brokers of these opportunities, or maybe ready-made social housing deals, or maybe broker relationship with providers. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, for deal sources and deal packages, there's a massive opportunity here. If I was a deal sourcer or a deal packager, what I would be doing is I would be going out there and I would be working with providers to create opportunities. Um, what I would be doing is rather than just providing the property, I'd be packaging that up with a care provider that wants to take it.
Mm.
A fee that you're going to be able to demand by saying, right, here is an opportunity to purchase this property and a let's say an example lease as to what this care provider is willing to sign for this property. You're giving someone
Yeah,
something really ready made.
you become super valuable for the marketplace. Yeah, that's for sure. And then this is very much something that is growing, an interest that is growing right now. So the relationships you build with the providers is definitely a huge opportunity. So yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks for
Just
that.
really quickly, Gear, I'm sorry to interrupt you though. I can see some people are having a slight issue. If there's any issues with the page or the code, what I'll do is I'll get Guillaume to send me a list of everyone who signed up for the course, and we'll make sure that an email gets out to you if there's a
Yeah.
few bugs going on behind the scenes. Apologies for that. But yeah, don't worry, it will be available.
Yeah, I've not seen it before, so normally the team will have a look. But
I did
yeah,
just have
no.
a look and it worked for me, but yeah, you
Mm.
never know. But yeah, we'll make sure that we get an email out to all of you. And I believe that this is going to be available on through the Property Filter app as well.
Yeah, so basically if you attend today, you get access to it, and then we're gonna make it available to when people become a yearly member, they're gonna access basically this discount, and we recommend this course because it's priced at 499 and it's worth 499, for what I've seen when we talked about it. So it's very reasonable at the full price. So we'll recommend it throughout. But then I think to access the discount, it's gonna be if you are a yearly member. So, but in the meantime, for all of you guys who are here, we'll send it back to make sure you can access it. How are you doing with time, Alex? Are you happy to stay a bit longer to go through the
Yeah, mate.
questions? There's yeah, okay.
All the time in the world, not a
Um,
problem. Yeah, if we've got more questions, I'm more happy or more
yeah,
than
yeah,
happy.
there's some really good questions, and I think people are really interested. It's a very important topic. So again, Ahmide was asking about how do you vet these companies on the CQC to ensure they are the good ones to work with?
Sure. So there's a certain amount of this that you can do yourselves.
Mhm.
The CQC rates everyone similarly to how like Ofsted rates schools. So you can see
Yeah.
in plain English whether it's, I believe it goes um, outstanding, good, requires improvement, and so on and so forth. So there's a bit that you can do there. Now, the other important thing to do is to see their finances.
Mhm.
So uh, your first step is obviously going to be company's house. Take a look at that, see what you think. You will obviously have your own opinion. When you start working with them and once you build a relationship with them, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to dig a little bit deeper into those finances. And what we do is we basically pass that over to our mortgage broker and to our valuer. And we say, right, this is a care provider that we are hoping to work with. Here is their accounts and their balance sheet and all that sort of stuff. Um, One, are we going to get lending on them? Because some people just simply will not get lending. If you've got a care
Mm.
provider that's got one home, doesn't have a good reputation, and has loads of debt, then the bank simply aren't going to lend on someone like that. So, number one, will you lend on them? And then number two, what yield do you think I will get from this care provider? So, those are the two key bits of information that you're going to want to find out. You can do your surface level due diligence yourself. But once you start speaking to them and you build a bit of relationship and you've got maybe a verbal agreement that you're going to do some business together, I'd be taking that forward to my mortgage broker and
Yeah, yeah.
valuer.
Yeah, it's the same as when you do HMOs, right? So when you're looking for HMOs, you're speaking with your lettings agents to know what you can get for the room, and you're speaking with your broker to say, for this house, from that street, got to be the yield, you know. So it's no different to doing any other type of deals really. So that
No,
makes lots
it's
of
your
sense.
standard due diligence, exactly.
So FRI, thank you, John, means full repair and insurance. Yeah, it's a good. You need to really understand how to do leases if you want to go into these spaces, because you could get stuck on a 20-year lease where you can't put the rent. There's no mechanism to put the rent up, and they don't do any maintenance. And you're like, okay, this is not better, right? So yeah, FRI is a very common term to say that they are responsible for fair, you know, tears and wears and tears, repairs and things like that. Sometimes they might exclude boilers and roof and things like that. So
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
I can't talk enough about getting the lease right.
mm,
Me and Max actually say that realistically, the lease is probably more expensive than, sorry, more important than the property itself.
mhm.
And the reason for that is, unfortunately, we've seen this a few times because, you know, we're quite known in the industry, and when people have problems, they come to us to try
They
and
come
solve
to
them.
you,
But
yeah.
I've seen people sign a 20-year lease with a care provider that they can't get lending on. Sometimes because of the care provider, sometimes because of the lease that they've signed, because
Mm,
it's not what is recognized as an institutional kind of grade lease. Um, they have no way to get out of it. They've signed it at the end of the day. They either buy their way out of it, um, or stick to it. There was one guy
wow.
who was stuck on a bridge. I can't remember how much he was paying, but it was more than you could ever imagine. And I felt really bad for him because unfortunately he had got some bad advice from somebody who claimed to know what they were talking about but didn't really. Um, Absolutely
Wow.
top bloke, was in it for the right reasons, wanted to do good, put together, you know, overspent on the property and really made it top notch. And then unfortunately found himself in a really tough position, which
Hmm.
we weren't able to help him. His hands were tied, unfortunately.
Wow. So he's probably had to sell it at a discount to some cash buyer somewhere.
Yes, we kept following up with him, but he went quiet in the end. So I don't know
Mm,
how it ended up. I hope
mm,
that he got out of the hole, but
mm.
it's a real warning to, you know, don't just go into this and start signing things. Get the right advice, speak to the right people.
Someone's asking about lease options. So could you control a property on a lease option and then lease it back to a provider?
You could, but it would depend on the level of care. If the level of care is high, it's quite likely that the property would have to fall under C2 use class. And unless the vendor is happy for you to go and change the use class, then it might be a bit difficult. But for more low level support,
Hmm.
I see no reason as to why you couldn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously the reason you say this is you usually have more control when you own the property to go and do planning stuff, whereas when it's not yours, and also you don't own the mortgage, so you might be able to do these lease options on unencumbered properties because you don't have the whole headache of can you get funding and can you or not on this provider. So Simon's asking, can you access government funding for this provision? So can you get? I'm not sure the scope of what you mean, Simon, with provision, but can you access government funding for any of the things we've talked about today?
Unfortunately not, which I think is unfair. But as I mentioned in my presentation, nobody likes property developers.
Mm,
So I've looked very extensively into this. A good friend of mine works in grants and has scoured every inch of the internet to try and find something for us. So there are some examples where local councils, specific local councils, will provide some funding, but really not loads. We've got a situation at the moment in Gloucestershire where the council are so desperate to house this one vulnerable person who's currently in an Airbnb that they have offered to pay for a low level refurb um, on a property that we're about to purchase to get her in there as quickly as possible and to basically incentivize us. But it's very few and far between. And it is a shame, but yeah, unfortunately, most things to do with property and development, the government aren't
mhm.
particularly keen to be giving handouts.
Okay, so let me just get this thing about how to apply the discount code out of the way. So there's a few questions around that. So let me share my screen. So this is the page you have. I just click on the same link. And then when you put the discount code, which was in the chat over here, you need to tick the little box over here, which is maybe the bits that people have missed, and the price dropped down to £1, and you can go continue, and then check out on the other side. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So I think a lot of questions around that. What is the what is the demand for those houses from care providers? How do you know what they need? So I've got a broader question on that. So isn't haven't you got like peaks and troughs of demand, and also very volatile, sort of volatile demand compared to the slow pace of developing and buying properties? How do you speak to someone and say, "Oh, I want this right now," and you're like, "Okay, let me go and buy it," and then it's going to be ready in 7 months? How do you manage that?
So yeah, the demand does move around. From the 5 years that we've been doing this, we have probably seen that it maybe goes in waves of 2 to 2.5 years, typically. That a council will, or a local authority will say, we are desperate for supported living. Sometimes it will be just for specifically for autism or for learning disability. Sometimes it will be, we are desperate for everything. And then they will start taking on properties. They'll start referring. They will give approval to commission developments and investments and property purchases. There will become a point where it does become saturated, and they've got more than they need. At that point, you do just have to pivot and move on to the next area. So, for example, we've done projects in Coventry, we've done projects in Nuneaton, Birmingham, Gloucester, Hull, and a few different areas. So the demand does come and go. It's not necessarily going to be 100% consistent, but as long as you can cover a few areas, you should be absolutely fine. And the way that it generally works is that they'll they'll become oversaturated in one type of care. So it'll be, we don't need any more mental health, but we do still need bungalows for people with autism, or we do still need some DDA compliant properties, et cetera, et cetera. So in short, the demand does definitely fluctuate, and you do have to be flexible and be able to move into different areas if you want to be doing this long term. But a lot of care providers work in more than one area anyway. So it's not necessarily like you have to go and build a whole new relationship with another care provider. Most of them will cover more than one local authority. The ones that you want to be working with should be covering more than one local authority.
And someone's asked, on average, how much do providers pay for a room? If you think of a 6-bed HMO, like how much do you expect? Is it area dependent?
Yep. So the most recent HMO style property we did was in Birmingham, and we were getting, I believe, £675 per room, per ensuite room.
Wow, that's really good, yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. Well, that literally means I can take off the bills, voids, and hold the headache, and because, yeah, well, we need to have a call.
It's a good return. But
Call me, Alex. Call me, all right?
yeah, it was a really good deal, and all of them are really good deals. But it is important to reiterate. They gave us a shopping list, and they said, right, we need properties in this area. It needs to be for this amount of people. We went out there and we bought a massive 600 square meter care home. Completely gutted it, completely refurbed it, completely changed the layout. I think we spent like £400,000 on the conversion of it. So
Nice.
it warranted those rents. Don't get me wrong, it was a really high end one. But yeah, like I said, you do get market rent plus a little bit more sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Alex, thank you so much. Do you have any sort of closing sentiment for us today?
Yeah, I guess I would just go back to we absolutely want to see as many property investors and developers in the supported living industry as possible. But please, if it is something you want to do, come into it with the right intentions, because the people that don't come into it with the right intentions the only people who end up suffering are the care users and the service users. Everyone else makes their profit out of the middle, but the money doesn't trickle down to these care users, who then unfortunately have to go with subpar care, not enough carers. And it's just not fair. And it's the complete opposite of the change that we're trying to make in this industry. So come into it, focusing on the people, and I promise you that the profit and the money will come as a byproduct of it.
Yeah, and surely it will show, you know, through your energy, the way you present yourself, and it will be really hard to do things with the providers. You know, it will be very clunky, and there'll be a lot of friction, I imagine, if you come to it from a, you know, like a basic money making thing. So between working with you or someone driven by more altruistic values, I'm sure they'll work with someone else the same way. An investor would probably pick the more impact-led developers than the opposite. So thanks so much, Alex, for today, for joining us on today's Deal Finder Corner. Thank you indeed for doing this super deal so that people can know more, go through the content you've prepared here on this course. That's really appreciated, and I think it's great value for our members. And thank you everyone for spending the hour or so with us. In the meantime, visit propertyfilter.co.uk, log on to your Property Filter account, have an endless supply of deals, join the top 1% and become a high achiever deal finder. Do more deals in less time, find hidden deals. I hope you enjoyed today's Deal Finder Corner, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.